In this video, we are talking about two of the greater Austin area's most popular towns, Leander, Texas and Round Rock, Texas. We're going to be comparing and contrasting the two, seeing what they have in common and how they differ, and hopefully helping you arrive at your own conclusion as to which one is right for you. Stay tuned. Hey again everybody, this is Frank with the team of agents at JB Goodwin Realtors. Every week we put out new content about living in Austin, Texas, the good and the bad, so consider subscribing if you haven't already, and ring that little bell to get notified whenever we put out a new video. In addition to that, we love the reach outs we get now all the time from people just like you in need of our help when relocating to Austin, Texas, so keep them coming, don't hesitate, whether you're 9 days away or 90, shoot our team a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. We've got your back. We're moving to Austin, Texas. So yes, in this video, we are comparing Leander, Texas and Round Rock, Texas, two of the more in-demand, sought-after, and popular towns surrounding the city of Austin in the greater Austin area. And just a little bit of an overview, Round Rock, Texas is going to be more established. It pretty much is all the way developed already. It is a staple of the greater Austin area, and it is a hub for people who want to be close enough to the city of Austin but not be stuck in the hustle and bustle of an urban setting. Now, Leander, Texas is very easily being compared to Round Rock, Texas, because even though it is still relatively in its infancy, it is on the rise, it is a hotspot, whatever you want to call it, boomtown. In a lot of ways, it parallels Round Rock, and one day they're pretty much both going to be mutual hubs, if you will, of places you can live outside of the city that are going to be, of course, more suburban in flavor, but they are hubs nonetheless. And as it currently stands, Round Rock, Texas is going to have right around 125,000 people, easily making it the biggest and most populated town, suburb, city outside of Austin, Texas. Now, Leander, Texas, as it currently stands, has about 83,000 people living there, but what we'll talk about later in this video is just how much more that is going to rapidly increase when compared to Round Rock, which is of course still growing, but as I mentioned, with it being pretty much developed and established, it's not going to explode the way that Leander, Texas is. Now, lastly, on the subject of Leander and Round Rock, Texas, before we get into more specific criteria, comparing and contrasting them throughout this video, I will mention that they both have a median age of right around 34 years old, which again kind of feeds into why they're being compared. They are these places not necessarily exclusively for empty nesters or retirees. They are suburbs, if you will, but for young professionals, people who are either single, with a partner, already married, or maybe wanting to start a family, but a lot of them might not even have kids yet and they want to be around the best schools. So they do kind of mirror each other and, for better or worse, differ each other as well. So without further ado, let's waste no more time and get into it. For starters, let's talk location. And in my opinion, this is a category in which Round Rock might have a little bit of an edge over Leander, but still quite comparable. So to put it quite simply, Round Rock, Texas is going to be northeast of downtown Austin, and Leander, Texas is going to be northwest of downtown Austin. And in the case of Round Rock, Texas, you're going to be right around 18 miles from downtown on average, maybe about 25 minutes. And in the case of Leander, Texas, you're going to be about 25 miles from downtown and maybe about 30 minutes removed. Now, what gets interesting about this is that Round Rock, Texas, as opposed to Leander, with how developed and established it is quite large. So it is possible for you to live in a part of Round Rock, Texas, and be only roughly 20 minutes from downtown. However, with how large it is, you could be living, say, in northeast Round Rock, Texas, and be closer to 40 or 45 minutes from downtown. And if you sprinkle in just a little bit of traffic, that could easily look like an hour. So in the case of Leander, Texas, it's not going to be quite as large. So basically, if you live in Leander, more or less, you can expect that 25 to 30 minute drive, and it's not going to fluctuate as much, at least as it currently stands, as it's still growing. Now, the reason I give Round Rock a little bit of an edge in this category is because of its proximity to the tech corridor of Austin, Texas in North Austin. Truth be told, a majority of the people that relocate to Austin, Texas, and a lot of the ones that we've helped close on homes, do so because they're coming here for those tech jobs. And so in the case of Round Rock, Texas, depending, of course, again, on where in Round Rock you live, you could be as close as just about 9 or 10 miles from that tech hub, making it only roughly between 10 and 20 minutes as a commute from that tech hub. Now, in the case of Leander, Texas, you're only going to be about 19 miles away from that tech hub, making it about 20 to 25 minutes on average. And granted, depending on who you are, these commutes could be bad or they could be good. You could be someone coming from San Francisco used to an hour or two commute each and every day, and this could be a breath of fresh air. Or you might be someone who's maybe accustomed to working from home and now you're not going to be working from home or something of that nature. So it depends on which walk of life you come from and what your situation is. But given the fact that they're both very similar in regards to their distance from downtown, but Round Rock is that much closer to the tech corridor, I would give the nod to Round Rock. Moving right along, we are now going to talk about the things to do in either Round Rock, Texas or Leander, Texas. And in this category, it is a little bit difficult to pick a winner because this is basically a matter of the present versus the future. So if you're banking on what has more to do as it currently stands, the answer is obviously going to be Round Rock, Texas, with how developed and established it is. However, if you are banking on potential, if you're maybe banking on appreciation, a worthy investment, or just the future, if you're planning to live in Leander, Texas 5, 10, 20 years, that upside could very well be much larger than Round Rock. So I don't know, if you're wanting something right now, I'd say Round Rock's the winner, but if you're wanting long-term, of course, Leander's the winner. So as it currently stands right now in Round Rock, Texas, you do have a plethora of things to do, whether it be Dell Diamond, whether it be the Round Rock Premium Outlet Malls, whether it be IKEA, whether it be the largest indoor water park in the entire country, so on and so forth. Even if you go to downtown Round Rock, you have a lot of walking around, little different antique shops and boutiques and bars and things like that, restaurants. So it is quite lively. It's not necessarily going to be like a city where you have a bunch of city things to do, but for a suburban town, if you will, Round Rock does have quite a bit to offer. Now, what makes Leander interesting is that as it currently stands, Leander is much more bare bones suburban right now. You basically have your grocery stores, you have some parks, you're going to have great schools, and master plan communities, new build communities, because they're really growing the town. But the thing about Leander is that as the future approaches, they have plans for something called Northline. And in case you didn't know, Northline is essentially going to be the Domain Part 2. And if you don't know what the Domain is, it is now a staple of shopping and much more in the greater Austin area. So Leander's getting its own version of that, where it's going to have a bar strip, it's going to have restaurants, it's going to have movie theaters, outdoor shopping. It's going to be a big project that they've already begun developing, which should be finalized in around 2030 or 2031. So it is quite a large project. And in addition to that, they're going to have a place called Leander Springs, which is going to be a lagoon with more shopping and restaurants. And so all of these things haven't yet been developed or finished, but that is going to make Leander, Texas, arguably an even larger hub in the greater Austin area than potentially Round Rock ever will be. As it currently stands, of course, Round Rock is that place, it is that destination, but I don't know, with the way Leander's looking, that future is quite bright. Up next, we are briefly going to talk about schools. And if you have been a longtime subscriber, surely you have heard me mention the Leander Independent School District and the Round Rock Independent School District, simply because they are two of the cream of the crop districts in the greater Austin area, two of the places that people flock to Leander, Texas and Round Rock, Texas for. Really the only district quite on that level in the greater Austin area is a district called the Eanes Independent School District, which is generally for that Westlake Hills area, on average $2 million home. So a lot of people obviously can't afford to send their kids there or to live there. And because of that, it is going to be a tiny fraction of how large the Round Rock and Leander Independent School Districts are going to be, each serving between 30 and 40,000 students, maintaining superb graduation rates, SAT scores, and ACT scores despite their size. And so, yes, that is why a lot of people come to the greater Austin area in the first place, because of those schools. And according to Niche.com, which is a website that ironically likes to grade school districts in a multitude of areas, Leander will get an A+, and Round Rock will get an A. Both very impressive, because to get an A as a school district is no small feat. And I believe the only reason why Round Rock might have an A instead of an A+ is because more criteria is taken into account, like the safety and the affordability and the income and things of that nature for a certain area. But assuming you're watching this because you already have Round Rock and Leander circled on your list of where you want your kids to go to school, there really isn't a wrong decision here. They are both two of the best that the city of Austin and its greater Austin area can offer. Now, real quickly, before moving on, drop a comment down below for us to get involved in. If we've been providing any value for you, consider liking the video as it helps our channel grow. Remember to subscribe, and lastly, share this with anyone you know who's wanting to learn more about living in Austin, Texas. Moving right along, we are finally going to talk about the affordability between Leander, Texas and Round Rock, Texas. And I'm sure many of you are like, all right, all of that other stuff is fine and good, Frank, but which one's cheaper? Well, they're both pretty much exactly the same right now in regards to their median home prices. That's going to be a number right around $475,000. Some places will say in the past month it was $500, in the past year it was $460. So, it's going to look like $460, $470, $480, and in some cases in recent data, probably closer to $500,000. But again, both of them mirror each other in terms of that median home price. Now, what's interesting, however, is that for the longest time, Round Rock was, of course, more expensive than Leander. Leander was smaller, it was less known, it was up and coming. So when Round Rock, for example, might have been in the low $4s, Leander would have probably been around $350. And then as Round Rock maybe approached $450, Leander was approaching $400. But the thing is, Leander now is rapidly appreciating because of its popularity and because of its demand. It's not that Round Rock is devoid of popularity or demand, but as I mentioned, it's much more established already. There are new build communities, yes, but compared to Leander, they're just spitting out new build communities left and right. And so people are really flocking to that area, making that price go up and up and up. And I don't have a crystal ball with me, but if I were to predict, in 6 months' time, Leander will officially have a higher median home price than Round Rock, Texas. And in my opinion, in the next 5-10 years, it's going to absolutely stay that way as Northline eventually completes and as Leander Springs eventually is completed, driving a lot of people to work in Leander, Texas, making them have to expand even quicker to accommodate for the influx of population. And so, people who buy a home right now in Leander, Texas for, $450,000 or $500,000, because of how hot that area is going to be, because of the destination it will become, I would assume that is going to be far less affordable long-term than Round Rock, Texas. But again, as it currently stands, they both pretty much are on the exact same level. It just depends on which one you just happen to vibe a bit better with, Lastly, on the subject of affordability, I'd be remiss if I did not mention property taxes. And it's something I've talked about a billion times by now, but I'll try to keep it brief. Basically, in case you didn't know, the property taxes in the state of Texas, not just Austin, are quite different than a lot of other places. So while some people might say, hey Frank, I've got a property tax rate where I live right now of 0.5 or maybe 1%, maybe even 1.5%. Well, here in Texas, and especially in Austin with it being so expensive compared to the other cities, that's going to look like 2.5%, 2.75%, 2.8%. 3%, and even sometimes above 3%. And yes, this applies to the Leander area and the Round Rock area, especially if you're looking at places that have new communities, new grocery stores, new schools. That is easily going to be around that 3% mark, which can easily be a second mortgage. So just keep that in mind. What attracts people to Leander and Round Rock is the fact that, hey, these are still places on average of less than $500,000. Can't say the same for Cedar Park, can't say the same for Liberty Hill, can't say the same for Dripping Springs, Bee Cave, so on and so forth. So that is attractive, but don't get blindsided, don't get fooled. Those property taxes can be the bane of your existence. Now, lastly, regarding the comparison between Leander, Texas and Round Rock, Texas, we are going to talk about the subject of safety. And in this category, Leander undoubtedly has a very strong edge over Round Rock. And that is because according to Neighborhood Scout, which is a website I like to use that measures different crime statistics and analytics and data for different areas, Leander, Texas, you will have a 1 in 89 chance of being involved in either a property or a violent crime, making it, I believe, safer than 60% of the rest of Texas. Now, in the case of Round Rock, Texas, your chances of being involved in either a violent or property crime are 1 in 48, making Round Rock have a higher crime rate than 70% of the rest of Texas. So that is quite a big differential. On one hand, Leander, Texas is safer than 60% of the state. And on the other hand, Round Rock is less safe than 70% of the state. And why is that? I'm not exactly sure. I mean, the best way I could describe it is Round Rock, Texas has a much higher population than Leander, Texas. So maybe Leander, because it's a smaller sample size, as it continues to explode and evolve, that crime rate will absolutely increase. But as it currently stands, yes, Leander, Texas, statistically at least, is going to be a much safer option than Round Rock, Texas. And no, I don't mean to insinuate that you'll be sleeping with one eye open in Round Rock, Texas. There is a reason it's a hub. There is a reason the schools are so great. But yes, that might be a reason why Round Rock got an A instead of an A+ for its schools, because they are taking into account information like this. Now, at the end of the day, in my experience, they're both lovely places to live. People are happy in either of them. But yes, if you're going off the data, Leander is the clear winner, at least in this category. So there you have it. Leander and Round Rock, Texas, as you can see, parallel in a lot of ways and have a lot of similarities. But as we've described, in a lot of cases, they differ quite substantially. And in some cases, one might look better than the other. And hopefully in this video, we've helped you arrive at your own conclusion as to which one would be better for you. Maybe it's Leander, maybe it's Round Rock, maybe it's neither of them. Maybe you prefer Bee Cave, Texas. Maybe you prefer Buda, Texas. Maybe you prefer Hutto, Texas. Whatever it is, that is what we are here for, helping people just like you relocate to the greater Austin area, making that move as smooth as possible. But again, the only way we can do that is by you reaching out to us. So again, don't hesitate, don't be shy, whether you're 9 days away or 90, shoot our team a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. And again, we put out tons of new content every week about living in Austin, Texas, the good and the bad. So consider subscribing if you haven't yet, and ring that little bell to get notified whenever we put out a new video. Comment down below with any questions or opinions for us to get involved in. Consider liking it if we've been providing any value. Share it with anybody you know. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas, and we will absolutely catch you later.